Welcome to the Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Scott Nerney. We're here on Tuesday night, the Cohesive Inn. Don't forget to share and subscribe, however you're watching this on social media. There's some great information. You can catch every new release we have. Today we have Linda from the Libraries of Providence. We're going to hear a little bit about her organization, a book that she's written to talk about libraries, which will be in the library. We're going to talk about how people can get that, and we're really excited to have you here. We've done some great shows and interviews at the Providence Community Libraries, and we want to hear the story behind it. So welcome to the Spotlight Series.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Give us a little background of yourself.
Oh, well, I've always been a doer and a community organizer. Professionally, I've been a lawyer, and I was served in the legislature from 1982 to 1994, 12 years. So my background is political and legal, primarily, but I stick my nose into all sorts of problems.
Which is okay. How did you get involved in the libraries?
Well, actually, I was working, I was a volunteer with the Friends of the Rochambeau Library, and in 2004, we became aware that the libraries were going to fire 60 of their employees, 40 at the downtown branch, and this I'm talking about the Providence Public Library, which was the only library in town and which had a central branch called the Providence Public Library Central Branch, and then it had 9 branches, which were much smaller and more neglected. So they were going to get rid of 60 employees, 40 downtown and 20 in the branches, which meant that we would have cuts in the hours of service, both downtown and the branches. And they did this, they said, because they didn't have enough money. But when you looked at the situation, they were at the same time deciding to move the entrance of the library, the downtown library, from Westminster Street to Empire Street, and that cost $200,000. And there really wasn't a need to move an entrance. There was a need for was to continue library services. And that's when I became concerned and started working with other people.
So it's not they didn't have the money, it's they wanted to utilize what they had in different ways.
They had a huge amount of money. They had the figure runs back and forth between $35 million to $41 million amount of money, which they called an endowment. But a lot of that really was available to run the libraries. And they also were getting money from the city. So it was a decision they were making. They were not willing to dip into what they called their endowment, and they were willing to cut the hours and sacrifice services, particularly in the branches, to make the downtown more glamorous.
Because cutting hours, services, and branches doesn't really impact those making decisions, who maybe 5 or 10% of them may have a child that utilizes it, where 90% of the patrons are the ones that will feel the pain.
It was even worse. The board that was running the libraries, most of the people do not live in Providence, and those who did live in Providence, most of those lived on the east side, which is the more affluent part of the city. So one really wouldn't have a knowledge of what was happening in Wanscott or Washington Park. And those branches did not matter as much as the sort of identity, the brand of the Providence Public Library.
So explain to us a little bit about the comment that I've heard before is the libraries are not permanent.
They're not what?
Permanent.
Well, I guess in Providence in particular, our libraries, before we took over in 2009, but the libraries of Providence were completely controlled by a private agency, a private club that had been started 130 years earlier. A group of kindly gentlemen who decided, we'll give you a public library. But they did not have to keep that going, and they didn't have to, the decisions were made completely inside. So if they thought they didn't want to have a branch in Smith Hill, or they wanted to close, Washington Park, they could do it. That was before we stepped in. And it was actually at this time that all of us learned that the Providence Public Library, which you think of as being a government agency,
Sure,
was actually a private institution. And it was even impossible at that time to know when the meetings were. It was like a club, which is all right if you're a club like the Athenaeum. But they were receiving more and more public money. Actually, by the time we got involved, they got more than 50% of their operating budget from either city taxes or from money from the state. So we had an interest in having some input into their decisions.
So how did you form the group of support to try to make this happen?
Well, it's sort of funny. You know, Margaret Mead has said never underestimate what a small group of determined people can do. And actually, we turned out to be the small group of determined people. A number of us actually got together. We brought different talents to the mix. Patricia Raub, who was a historian, was very instrumental. Ellen Schwartz, who is an accountant, not afraid of numbers, was very important. Later, Marcus Mitchell, who was involved in business, got involved. And the four of us ultimately secretly formed another corporation, which one time too many, they were closing the libraries. We stepped in and said, we could run your libraries. And we went head to head for the city money to run it.
And all of this is in your book, The Fight That Saved the Libraries?
Absolutely. It's a blow by blow account of, and it's a circular account because this took 5 years. It's amazing. 4 years, we just wanted to reform the library. As a matter of fact, at one point, the president of the board of the Providence Public Library said to me, "You think you can do a better job running their library than I can or we can?" I said, "No, we don't want to run your library. We just want you to run it better." And that's true. We did not want to be running the city's libraries, but we kept trying and trying it. And after 4 years, finally we said, this is not going to work. And the library, the Providence Public Library, kept saying, well, to the city, if you don't want us running, you can create a library system in the city, which would have been prohibitively expensive. Or you can find another 501c to run it. So we secretly became that other 501c3 and took over. And the 5th year was the fight to actually get the city contract. Complicated. It's very complicated, but it has a very good ending. We ended up with 9 neighborhood libraries saved. They were going to close 5 of them. All 9 of them were saved, and they're functioning beautifully. The community libraries of Providence is just a wonderful institution now. I'm very proud of them.
I've been to Rochambeau to do some interviews. The passion and spirit of the librarians, from leadership to every librarian that I spoke with, was unbelievable. The job they're doing to bring the community together, from infants all the way up through any age, is really a good spotlight as to how things can be run when the librarians, I'll say their culture is spent more on working as librarians than working on trying to run something from a bureaucratic side.
Right.
And, I applaud you for taking that step in to kind of take that problem away.
Yeah, well, now I do have to say that thank goodness after 15 years and even before this time, the 2 library systems, because there are now 2 library systems in Providence. One is the Providence Public Library, which runs the downtown library on Empire Street, and the other is the Community Libraries of Providence, which runs the 9 neighborhood branches. They now are consulting with each other and working out to make sure that the library needs of the city are carried out. But they have different orientations. The downtown library is truly a research library, much more so, and the neighborhood libraries are truly community assets. They're right there.
And since the news of this book came out, have you heard from other cities and towns or states that?
Well, it hasn't actually come out. Well, actually, as we speak, as we're recording this, it hasn't come out. It's coming out in May. We're having the launch party on May 16th at Rochambeau. And I have been writing and talking to people, but they're not aware of it yet, although it is available. They have gone to Amazon to get it.
So the name of the book is The Fight That Saved the Libraries.
Right.
Available on Amazon.
It's
and
available.
A pre-launch.
Yeah, the most important thing is that this book, the sale of this book goes to the support of the library. So every penny of profits go to the libraries. And so it will be on sale at all 9 libraries. You can come in and buy it. It's $15. or you can buy it at a neighborhood bookstore. It's $15. Or you can buy it on Amazon, but don't do it on Amazon, please, if you live near Providence, because when you buy it on Amazon, only a few dollars comes to the library as opposed to the $15 that comes when you buy it locally. So it's much better.
Great. And is there a Facebook or website to talk a little more?
I have a website. It's called Saved Libraries, all one word, savedlibraries.com, or it's also, you can reach it through Linda J. Kushner, all one word, .com. And we tell you, we actually have a link on how you can buy it. What I'm giving lots and lots of talks about the book, many libraries and community centers, and you can get that information on that webpage.
So you can go to a talk to listen to the woman who wrote a book that's available for sale at the library about how to save libraries.
Right. And the funny thing about the book was, I thought I was writing about libraries. And what I turned out to be doing was writing a handbook on how to create change. Because this was a David and Goliath situation. We had no money. None. And they had $35 million in their funds. And we were brand new, and they were 140 years old. But we managed to hook up all the energies in the community, because when you really talked about what libraries did and explored it, there were many, many people who wanted to support it, and we won. So it's a handbook, and I had a lot of political experience because I had been a legislator, excuse me, and that seems to have come into the book.
Great. Well, I really applaud the effort you put in to save those libraries. And writing this book was a little bit of self-introspective as to what you've done and how things can be done. I'm sure someone will take your learnings and apply them to other areas.
Yeah, we always thought that this would happen. And we've heard, we got letters about this, but we haven't yet seen it directly happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much for spotlighting the community and what you're doing. It's a big benefit to the Providence community to have these libraries, and I'm glad someone like you was there when they needed you most, and continue to support them in every way possible.
Yes, I think we have a real gem in our neighborhood libraries, and it's important to take advantage of them. Go there as a child, go there with a child, go there as an adult, enjoy it. You'll have a good time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.